for coming to another episode of this podcast. It's really cool today. It's a little chilly. We're busting the hats out here who are watching this on YouTube. The winter toques, as they call them in Canada, because fall is here, and fall is here quickly in Vancouver. But I love it. I mean, I love fall. It's such a beautiful time. Everything's changing. And it just reminds us of the beauty in change. You know, I always see that when the leaves turn colors and there's like this magical transformation that happens, like something that's so beautiful that was brought on by spring and summer, and this evolution of life and change is something that is embraced in the seasons and in nature because it allows it to grow into something more beautiful. So fall has always been such a great representation of that for me. And I look at my life and how much I've changed inside of it, and I just think like, yeah, I can appreciate that on so many different levels. And I hope that you can too, you know, see beauty in the change and see that when something falls away from you, it's okay because something else is going to grow. And that's a beautiful thing to think about. You know, when we let something go, we make space for something new to come in. That's so beautiful, really. We don't give ourselves enough time to think about these kind of things, right? Because the value that comes through the processing of emotions or processing the things that we do need to let go is priceless. So often we hold on to things so deep and they weigh us down because we can't see another way around it, because we don't know how to grow past it, because processing emotions isn't something we've been taught to do. And it's difficult. I think that's a big part of it is the level of difficulty that's in it, just because we haven't practiced it. So when we do come up on something like that, like having to process an experience or a memory or whatever it may be, we get lost in the emotion because the emotion is something we know. But to detach from the emotion and observe the memory or the experience or the conflict or whatever it may be as a lesson and experience is just not something that we're willing to do, because that may mean that we're going to have to endure a little bit of pain in a feeling, in processing something, in letting something go. There might be some pain attached to that. But let me put it to you this way, like short-term pain for long-term gain, right? Think about that. Yeah, you're going to feel something in the moment when you're processing things. I've been doing it for the last 2 weeks. I've been doing it for the last 2.5 years since I changed my life from a 23-year drug addiction and a life of so many bad psychological behaviors and patterns that I had created in my life. I 2.5 years ago, I changed my life. And I have been practicing processing emotions. And let me tell you, from an individual who had created an abundance of emotional traumas for himself and bad experiences in life, I know what it's like to not have an easy go. And there's no levels with things, because an emotional trauma, it's whatever traumatic experience holds you into an emotional state. Like it is what it is. But I know about that. And I also know about the process. And I also know about the alleviation of that process and what can happen for you. And that's why I do this, and that's why I share, is because like this is how we can learn from each other. You know, people want to look at my story and say like, wow, like that's incredible that you even aren't using drugs anymore. You know, never mind that you're speaking about it and that you're trying to teach people about the things that you learned within it, right? That's a whole nother thing. But for me, it's the only way we grow. I've learned this. I've learned that like that journey didn't happen to me. That journey happened for me. So I was able to learn all of these things, all of the lessons and experiences within such a great, difficult journey, and bring that here and share that with you. That's what this is all about. And life is all about that. And whatever has held you back in your life, I hope one day that you'll be able to share that with someone who you find and meet along your journey that is struggling in the same way you were. Because that's education. Not only is that education, but that's evolution. When you're able to share what held you back in your life with someone else, man, you just taught somebody something, but real things. I'm not talking about making money here. I'm talking about growth, personal growth, spiritual growth, these kind of things that we go through in our life when we share with other people. We help people evolve spiritually. We help people evolve emotionally, mentally, physically, to a higher version of themselves. Because we can offer a perspective that they may not have seen, or maybe they felt alone and now they know that they're not. That's the thing in this world, is that we so divided, yet all of us seem to be going through these same things. And I don't care where you come from in the world. This channel never differentiates from any part of the country. I mean, we're human beings, a part of the human race, guests on planet Earth, which makes us all the same. That's why addiction is addiction anywhere in the world. That's why mental health is mental health anywhere in the world. That's why obesity is obesity anywhere in the world, because these are results of a lack of love for oneself. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter if you're missing limbs or if you're tall, big, small. It doesn't matter, because these things happen inside where everything matters. And that makes us all the same. And we're all struggling these days, so let's not pretend about that. There's a whole lot of internal distractions happening where we're so focused on the external because we don't want to see what's going on inside, or we feel too alone to face it. We don't have anybody to talk to about it, and we don't have people that we want to open up to and share about it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really have too many either. That's why I did this with you. Because I figured if I didn't have a community, I'd make one. And that's the truth. That's why I set out to do all this. That's why I've started doing videos in the first place, is because I thought I need a place where like-minded individuals are coming. Like I feel this way about me and my life, and I'm doing things in my life that are not pretending, are communicating about emotions, are talking about the things that hold me back, and I'm okay with it. And I'm okay with discussing, processing emotions. And if you're okay with that too, come here. Welcome. You and me, we part of the same tribe, really. And let's create a bigger one, and a bigger one, and a bigger one, because the world needs that right now. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is just wake everyone up to this idea that we're not different from each other. Money just divides us to think that we're better or we're not good enough for each other, which is crazy. I mean, that's what's got us to this point. And really, I want to share with you, like, where do we go from here? Contemplate that. Just take a minute and think about that. Our current state has brought us to this point in time where materialism is just an idea to have you feel something, feel more important, feel accepted, or feel like you're better than other people. We know that this is a trick. We know that materialism doesn't offer us happiness and love. We know this. We know that the current state of living, cost of living, is out of control. We know this. We know that wages are not circumventing the cost of living. We know that pensions are going away and unions are no more because they're not for the people, they're for profit. We know this. So if we're at this point in time, right, where we're conscious of all these things, where do we go from here? This idea of being divided and judging each other isn't good for humanity. So even though corporations are for profit and they're not for the people can be for the people. And in order to find people that are for the people, you got to set boundaries in your life. Because there's many people that are going to be stuck and tricked by this idea of materialism and by this concept that if success is defined by monetary gain, that they'll one day be successful in the external world. But I can promise you, many of those individuals will lack something in the internal world where everything matters. And as they unfold their journey, they will learn lessons and experiences, some difficult, some easy. But if you've already come to this conclusion where the external world just doesn't offer any application for your spiritual personal growth, then welcome to finding another individual who's on that same path and who's been down that road. And I can promise you there's many more people like us that are wanting to share experience and grow and encourage you to grow through whatever holds you back and be there to listen or be there to answer questions and offer perspective. There's many people like that, but we have created these circles of what is called friends that don't support these philosophies, that don't support these understandings. And this is why we are still stuck in these repetitive cycles around the same people, is because they're not really supporting our evolution and they really don't care. Because let's be real, I mean, if you care about somebody, you check on them, right? You can feel an individual you care about. That's a big part of it, is the feeling. I mean, I don't even know some of the people that I feel, and I know that I need to check on them, and I do. And you know what's crazy? It's not crazy, it's beautiful. But when I do, they needed somebody to check on them. Because that's the place that I've come to in my life, that I've removed the distractions from the external world. I've removed the people that don't support these philosophies, that aren't in tune with a higher self or personal growth, growing into self-love, or a being of love that feels for his brothers and sisters, human beings, a part of the human race. I moved those people out, and it happened naturally. It certainly wasn't like, where there was emotions involved, because there just wasn't. The only emotion that was involved was a personal one for myself, looking at the people that I knew as being a little more distant from me. And I can tell you, for me, that was a lot of my family. Because when you awaken into a state of love, or you're ready to begin this journey, the first people that you want to put this love into is your family. Because you've got the love, and you want to bring everyone close to you together, but you'll find out very quickly that your truths aren't everyone else's. That's another big part of boundaries, is your truth may not be for everyone else. And I had to learn that myself as well. I mean, I only speak from experience on this podcast, so everything that you hear me talk about, I've already gone through, and that's why I'm sharing it. That's why we're doing this. But I know the results, and the results for me were quite beautiful. Now, the results for you may be different, but the destination is the same. If your destination is a place of love, becoming love, then we will arrive in the same place at some point. But the experiences that you face on that journey will be up to you. I can't change you. I can't make you do anything. All I can do is offer perspective as to what happened for me. And when all those people in my family sort of kind of became a little more distant, it's because it just wasn't our time, right? And I had to appreciate that, because you can't force things on a journey of spiritual unfoldment. You just can't. Like, that's when you go against the universe, and you most certainly can. I did it for 23 years, where I just challenged the universe constantly, and I learned the same lesson over and over and over again, because I didn't actually learn from it. And because I just was stuck in this cycle where I didn't want to learn. But when you observe things happening for you rather than to you, you're able to see them in a different way. And if my family not being so close to me for the beginning was happening for me, okay, I could appreciate that. It was difficult because I was lonely. And we all want to be accepted, right? But for my journey, I was a drug addict for like 23 years, homeless. People, they didn't really accept me anyway. Society didn't really accept me, which was a gift. To be honest with you, it was a gift. I was always sound within myself. Even when I was a drug addict, I was consciously comfortable with what I was doing. It wasn't supporting any good practice of behavior. But at the end of the day, I was conscious of destroying myself. And if people didn't accept that, I didn't care. Because I had something that I needed to bury within me. And that's just the way it was. So acceptance is an interesting one, because we bend rules very quickly, and we change the way we are for people just so we can be accepted by them, when in fact we're not speaking our truths to ourselves about who we are and what we want. And that's something that we've come to practice for quite some time, which is why we are in situations that we are in where we don't want to be. It's because we didn't speak our truths. And think about it. If we set boundaries, personal boundaries, where we knew our self-worth and our self-value, we knew our value. If we knew these things, then we would have boundaries in place where if people entered those boundaries that didn't support that same self-worth and that same value and that same philosophy of evolution to love, well, those people just naturally wouldn't be allowed within that boundary. Now, there's no disrespect there. It's a requirement, because we're on our own journey of spiritual unfoldment and of personal growth into love, to shed the emotional traumas from our past, look at them as lessons and experiences, and grow within them. Find the beauty within our darkness. That's what we're here to do. Now, if people are trying to bring more darkness, and we're trying to bring all these red flags into areas that we've turned green, we don't want that. So if we allow that to happen, that's on us. And that's a lesson not learned that will be repeated. If we make excuses for things in our life for why we do that, that is what keeps us bound in a certain place and time that doesn't have us evolve. And really, I just share that with you so you can become aware of it. These are things subconsciously. But the idea of acceptance has us bend that boundary line for certain individuals, because we want to feel something externally rather than internally. But I can promise you, if you put work in on the internal love, the self-love, the self-care, the application of the practice of the evolution of self, you will never feel alone, ever. Because the acceptance of self is something that just is a magical place to be, because you constantly have something inside of you and you never feel alone. For me, it's the divine light, and I'll talk about this. When I talk about love, what I'm speaking to is the divine light. When I was in prison and I had my spiritual awakening, I'm going to talk about this. All right, we're going to talk about this. I was laying there on the jail cell on my bed up top. My cellmate was below me. And I was reading a book. And it was a book about a biker who had lived a very similar life to mine. A lot of drug use, a lot of hatred, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of confusion. You know, me and this guy, we felt the same way. And along his journey, he was up against many challenges of trying to overcome the emotional traumas that held him back, but he couldn't get out of his own way. One day he walked into an apartment, and there was a cross on the wall. And the cross shot off the wall and opened up to him as if it was love. And it entered him. This light, this idea of a divine light entered him. And what he said, the words that he spoke, and I mean, remember, like, we're two individuals who are at a point in time in our lives where everything has just become completely unmanageable within. Never mind the external world. Doesn't matter, you know, if he's selling drugs or on a bike or whatever it may be, or wherever I was in my journey. The reality of this situation where the two of us were, we were at a point where we had had enough of the current situation of living with a lack of love. So this man spoke these words. He asked Jesus into his heart. And I mean, we're talking about two individuals who don't have anything to do with religion. You know, I went to church when I was a child with my grandmother. That was something that we did that was very special because I love my grandmother very much. But for me, when I was in church with my grandma, I was also aware enough to know that there was the popes at that time were touching little boys. And I remember being like 11 years old. I was 10 or 11 years old. And I thought, how could these people, and I spoke these words to my grandmother. I said, how could these people be so close to God? Like, they're the ones who spend their life for God, bringing this wisdom to us. And they're telling me that I should be afraid of hell because I should fear that, because if I go off the path of the straight and narrow, then this is where I would spend my time. But these are the people that are closest to God doing this to little boys, so it must not matter because they don't care. This is how I felt about religion at a very young age. I had a disconnect from it. But in that moment, in that jail cell, I was reading this book, and this man spoke those words. And I finished the story of where he ended up in life. And he went on to do some very beautiful things for addicts. He built a place called Canaan Land in the United States. And basically what he did is he got a piece of land and he turned it into a farm. And he brought all these kids there that were suffering from emotional traumas with his wife. And they worked together to heal people. And I thought, you know what? This guy came from that to this. And he has a beautiful life now just because he spoke some words. I'm going to try it. And I remember even taking a breath before I did it, to be honest with you. I do. Because it seemed so foreign to me to say it. I don't know why it did. To speak some words about an idea of a human that was on this earth at quite some time ago. And I spoke those words. I said, I accepted Jesus into my heart. My life had become unmanageable. And from that point forward, I would accept that love into my heart. And you know what happened to me? Right away, I had this, I felt like I was floating in that prison cell. Immediately, I started to cry. Buckets of tears coming out of me. And my cellmate is underneath me. Remember the place that I'm in. And I had buckets of tears coming out my eyes. And my body was vibrating such a high intensity, but then I had this wave of love and peace come over top of me. It just flowed through my body. It was incredible. And I mean this. I still have a complete disconnect with religion today, but spirituality is something that I understand very, very much. And that's what I want to talk about this for, is because, we all seek these things. This is what's inside of me. Spirituality is inside of me, and it came through a form of love. It came through a form of divine light. Now, do I need to go to church to find that divine light? Do I need to pray to an external source to grow this internal light within me? No, I do not. You know why? Because each and every single one of you are gods. The spiritual teachers that were on this planet help us get closer to that place within ourselves. Think about it. You live in a physical life. You have to put work in if you want to achieve something. So many people go to church and they pray for things to happen in their life, and they pray for things to happen in life, but they do nothing. It doesn't work. If you want something in life, you've got to get it. You've got to put the work in. But I can promise you, if you're at a point in your life that you're looking to have love come into your life, ask it. I don't care how you do it, but if you're looking for it, ask it to come in and see what happens. If you got nothing to lose like me, and you're in a place, and get real with yourself in this moment when you're going to do it. This isn't something you sit at the kitchen table where you're trying to eat a meal and you speak some words. No, man, when I did this, it was such a moment without it being a moment, but I just felt like I wanted it so bad because I didn't know it. And this guy happened for him. And here I am today sitting in front of a microphone with a podcast. And it happened to me too. Now, if it happened to two of us, I know it happened to more people. And I got to share about it because it was a huge part of why I am the way I am. My addiction went away. And I learned from the lessons and experiences that are offered me along my journey, and I live in love because I have something else inside of me. I'm not alone. There's something with me in here. I can't explain it. It doesn't have to come through churches and religion. It doesn't do that. Spirituality is pure love, and it's something that you have to arrive on your own terms. Anybody who tries to tell you how to get to a place of love is wrong. How can anyone do that? We're all individuals, a part of a collective consciousness. So we're all here experiencing our own journeys. So the destination is the same for sure, but how we get there is going to be different. Absolutely. We all have to process the things that have held us back, or the things that have had us disconnected from something that we are so naturally connected to. To get back to that connection, you've got to go on a journey. So if somebody tells you what will work or what won't work, well, that obstructs the journey because you have to learn what won't work and what will work for you. Now, these podcasts and other people that are doing things like I'm doing, we just offer guidance and we just share from our experiences to let you know that the evolution can happen for you. And these are the things that kind of work for me along my way. I set some boundaries. I became accountable and responsible and honest and authentic, and I observed my emotional traumas, and I took time to process. And self-love and self-care is so much more than bath bombs and getting your hair done. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're here to do, is to offer you these things, that everything that matters is the internal. The external world is just here to distract you and try to convince you that making money is what you have to do. And I'm telling you, it's wrong. It's completely wrong. Because the journey inward is everything. It's so beautiful. It's so magical. It's not easy because we've been so distracted from how to get there. Because they're not teaching us in school how to do that. It's not like we talk about, our parents maybe not knowing what's best for us, or like being able to communicate that there's more teachers on the planet that just come in schools. That nature can teach us things. Grandparents can teach us things. Bus drivers can teach us things. That we can all learn from each other. We are all teachers to each other. Something I've learned along my journey is that there's no manual for life. But there is. Because I got a piece of the manual, and you got a piece of the manual, and she got a piece of the manual, and he got a piece of the manual. We all got a piece of the manual. But until we come together to communicate about what we are holding for knowledge and information, we're going to struggle to put that manual together. And a big part of the external world distracting us from each other is because they don't want us to have that manual for whatever reason. I believe it's because we would know our power, because I can be honest with you, I know the power that resides within me. I know what lives inside of me. And I know how powerful and magical it is. And this is why I do what I do. This is why I share the way I share, because I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to inspire you to do it. I'm going to inspire you to go on a journey to find it, because it is so incredibly magical that you're going to want to give it to somebody when you get it too. And you know what? It's not something you have to obtain. It's something that lives inside of you. It's already there. You just got to find it. You just got to wake it up again. You just got to wake it up. And things that I speak of in the podcast, that's what it's there to do, is to help you wake that up. And to remember who you are. And setting boundaries is a big part of who you're trying to be and what you're trying to become. Because when you set boundaries, then you have made a decision that you're going to grow. And you're going to grow through your journey on your terms. And that's very important to come to that conclusion to do. Because everyone should be doing that on their own terms. When people think for you, you're not really living like someone else is living for you. That's a big part of my journey that I'm very grateful for. The addiction just always had me do what I wanted to do. Now, those choices probably weren't always the greatest ones, but at the end of the day, I didn't follow what anyone else told me. I mean, I remember I tried following my dad's idea of like, first one in the morning, 5 a.m., the shift work and factories and doing all these things, and like, this is how you make it because this is how I made it, and that's what you got to do. I think I did that for like a month and thought, this is insane. Like, there's no way that there's some sort of level of achievement for me to be successful through this manner. I was very grateful for that, because it had me think and learn for myself at a very young age. And it doesn't matter how old you are if you're applying these things in your life that I'm speaking of and other people are speaking of, because it's never too late. Some people don't get it till an hour before they die. But you know what? If you get it an hour before you die, you got it. You made it. But if you get it earlier in your life, you have a chance to share it with other people. And when you have a chance to share it with other people, then you're here supporting the collective consciousness and growing into a higher state of love. Because that's the evolution of life. The evolution of mankind does not come through rocket ships going to other planets. Everything we need is right here, and it's within us. And it's within us together that we can really evolve to a higher state of consciousness. These are very real things. We've just spent too much time watching television and eating shitty food and doing jobs that take all of our energy that we don't want to do to really give this kind of stuff some mental attention. But if you are at a place in your life where Netflix is becoming boring, you know your job sucks, and you really want to get connected with your family because you want to get in touch with yourself, then practice the things that I'm speaking of. And to begin that practice, you got to shut the television off. It is one of the biggest distractions that we have that hold us back in our life. But if you can shut that television off for a couple hours a night and you can practice this and practice and practice and practice, you'll eventually get to a place where you're not watching television anymore. You're learning every single night. Education doesn't have to come through an institution. Education is offered in many different places. There's lots of books, there's lots of podcasts, there's lots of YouTube channels that are offering you wonderful ways to grow. But something I want to offer you is, when you take in information, don't just consume a bunch of information. Because I know lots of people that are like, they got their hands in so much spirituality, but they're not practicing anything. They're just retaining the information. A lot of what I speak of, the reason I do it in this manner is because I want you to practice this throughout your life. I do the episodes every week because I'd like you to take the things I say and then apply them over your week and kind of see how you can evolve through the shared experience or through the guidance of knowledge. If it works for you, wonderful. I mean, or if you have to go back and revisit an episode and go, okay, hey, like maybe I should try something different here. You know what I mean? That's what this is all about. But really, it's just all about the practice of evolution of your life. Anything you practice, you get good at. So if you practice watching television and eating shitty food and spending too much time on your telephone and not paying attention to your kids, you're going to get really good at that. And that's a reality. Like that's just a reality. You're going to get really good at that. And a lot of us are really good at that. We don't cook, we don't create. We just shut our mind off. Like that's something I hear more than anything is like, I just got to de-stress. I just got to shut my mind off. It's like, but wasn't your mind shut off before you were doing whatever brought you to this place where you need to shut it off? Because jobs don't really have us do anything other than perpetuate money for people who don't need it. I don't care what you do, right? The reality is like you're not creating something of your own fruition, something from inspiration and passion where you get full creative control. I mean, not everybody, but let's be real. I'm talking to the majority of people here. We don't really get those luxuries. So you got to give yourself those luxuries after that's all done, right? Just give your portion of yourself at work. You're expendable, trust me. That's why we live in a world of profit, not people. So if you're going to be for the people, you got to be for the people. You got to be for yourself first. You got to make time for yourself. And you're going to get there. I promise you're going to get there. And you're going to see the value in that as well. And people around you are going to see things change, right? And that's the other thing with boundaries. People are going to see things change in your life, and they're going to question you on your evolution and why you're not following everyone else and why you're not talking the way everyone else does and why you're just kind of observing things now. People don't like that. People like when you talk shit because it has them feel comfortable about their lives, that everyone's talking shit, right? Everyone's going nowhere kind of thing. There's a lot of people that just talk and don't do anything. So the guidance that I offer would really encourage you to do things. Action. Action is everything. I just want to say I appreciate you all for listening to this episode. I'm really grateful that I shared that piece of me about love, about coming into my heart. It's something very special to me and very important to me, and it's something I'm still working out. Not the fact that like spirituality is something I've come to understand is just pure love, you know? And the spiritual teachers like Buddha, Allah, Jesus, Krishna, all of them really taught us the same thing, but man distorted that. Man created religion so that they could centralize fear around control. And that really is just a reality. So I just want you to understand that. Spirituality is something that you have a connection with, just you and something else, something inside of you. And I'm happy to have shared that with you because I really want you to contemplate that, embrace that, and learn and grow within that love, because it's a magical space. It really is. Like if you can accept the divine light and have it come into your life and really start to work with it and really be okay with it and really see that it is so much more than religion and is so much more than this idea that we've been told today. Just, I want you to find it on your own, and I want you to be a part of it, because it's a beautiful thing, man. It's just so beautiful. It alleviated me from a life of emotional traumas, a life of fear, anxiety, and stress. And today I just live in a wonderful space. Now, my life's not always easy. You know, I still have to process things, you know, within my relationship or within my personal life or whatever it may be, right? Like, I still go through things, but I go through things with love, because the love you withhold is the pain that you carry. And I'll leave you with that. The love you withhold is the pain that you carry. So love through everything. And I promise you, if you can see the love in all things, your life and your day will be much easier. And that's the truth. So that's a great way to set boundaries as well. Stop carrying pain. Just live with love. My social media is Real Talk for an Unreal World. That's the Facebook, the YouTube, and the Instagram. My Twitter is Real Talk, the number 4, Unreal. And the most important thing is my email. Please feel free to email me with any questions, concerns, or comments along your journey. If I can help and offer you advice while I have this ability to do this in my life right now, that's what I'm here to do. This thing can get personal if you want it to. However, I can help. I'd love to offer that help to you. So please feel free to email me and let me know where you're at in your journey. And if you know anyone who is struggling, or you know people that need help with mental, physical, addiction, like whatever it may be, relationship, hit me up. This idea of spiritual unfoldment and growth happens within a collective. So we're all on an individual journey, but at the end of the day, when we need advice and we need to gain perspective, we are part of a collective consciousness, so we must work together. And I just want to say I appreciate you and I love you all, and thank you. Like, just love yourself, be kind to yourself. That's the only thing I could really ask for anyone, is just be kind to yourself so you can be kind to others. Much love.